Especially to those who love to know more about Japanese eras, today is another video about culture and tradition. I'll be showing you some photos and I would ask you, have you seen or visited these places before? Kyoto is considered the cultural capital of Japan and a major tourist destination. It is home to numerous Buddhist temples, Shinto shrines, palaces, and gardens, some of which are listed collectively by UNESCO as a World Heritage Site. Kamakura is a seaside Japanese city just south of Tokyo, the political center of medieval Japan, modern day. Kamakura is a prominent resort town with dozens of Buddhist Zen temples and Shinto shrines. For some people who would love to travel, the question is Kamakura worth visiting? We will find that out. Kamakura is worth a visit because it offers 1. An experience of what small-town Japanese really is, without the trappings of modern city life. With simple food, exceedingly well-made shirts, and a quiet beach, Kamakura has many interesting sights and is surrounded by beautiful nature, which makes it a popular trip amongst both locals and tourists. Everything should have a beginning, and the question is, when did the Kamakura history start? Kamakura period in the Japanese history, the period from 1192 to 1333, during which the basis of feudalism was firmly established. It was named for the city where Minamoto Yoritomo set up his headquarters for his military government, commonly known as the Kamakura Shogunate. Kamakura really rose to fame when it was used as the base for the powerful Minamoto clan, which dominated Japan in the last quarter of the 12th century CE until the first quarter of the 13th century CE, when they were superseded by the Hojo clan, a family who controlled the hereditary title of Shiken of the Kamakura Shogunate between 1203 and 1333. Now, this is another thing, because sometimes when we plan for travel, we should make sure that we would look good in our outfits and that it would match on the places that we're going to. So this time, are you curious about their way of clothing? Let us see. During the Kamakura period and the Muromachi period, both men and women wore brightly colored kimono. As the warrior class grew in power, they would take to the battlefield dressed in gaudy colors that represented their leaders. Kamakura culture was largely defined by the rise of the warrior class, which held martial skills and other ideals of duty, loyalty, and bravery in the highest regard. The samurai or bushi were the warriors of pre-modern Japan. They later made up the ruling of the military class, which eventually became the highest-ranking social caste of the Edo period. Samurai employed a range of weapons such as bows and arrows, spears, and guns, but their main weapon and symbol was the sword. Two of the earliest and the most enduring phrases of the Way of the Warriors, who arose in the provinces of Japan in the late 9th and 10th centuries, were the Way of the Bow and the Arrow, and the Way of the Bow and Horse. These phrases, however, referred to little more than prowess in the military arts, the most important of which, as the second phrase clearly specifies, were horse riding and archery. For many centuries, no one in Japan undertook to define systematically what the way of the warrior, in a larger sense, was or should be. Warrior beliefs, ideals, and aspirations, including loyalty, courage, the yearning for battlefield fame, fear of shame, and an acute sense of honor and faith, were widely recognized, but neither warriors nor others apparently felt the need to codify them in writing. In addition, the samurai, who are the members of the powerful military caste in feudal Japan, began as provincial warriors before rising to power in the 12th century with the beginning of the country's first military dictatorship known as the shogunate. As servants of the daimyos or great lords, the samurai backed up the authority of the shogun and gave him power over the mikado or the emperor. The samurai would dominate Japanese government and society until the Meiji Restoration of 1868 led to the abolition of the feudal system. Despite being deprived of their traditional privileges, many of the samurai would enter in the elite ranks of politics and industry in modern Japan. More importantly, the traditional samurai code of honor, discipline, and morality, also known as Bushido or the way of the warrior, was revived and made the basic code of conduct for much of Japanese society. During the Heian period, the samurai were the armed supporters of wealthy landowners, many of whom left the imperial court to seek their own fortunes after being shut out of power by the powerful Fujiwara clan. The word samurai roughly translates to those who serve, and another more general word for warrior or bushi, from which Bushido is derived. This word lacks the connotation of service to a master. Concerned about the meaning and role of a ruling warrior class during an age of peace, philosophers posited that warriors should not only maintain military preparedness to deal with fighting that might occur, but should also develop themselves through education based primarily on Confucianism to serve as models and moral exemplars for all classes of Japanese society. Now let us talk about the Bushido, the honor and morals developed by the Japanese samurai. In the wake of the Meiji Restoration, Shinto was made the state religion of Japan. Unlike Confucianism, Buddhism, and Christianity, it was wholly Japanese. And Bushido was adopted as its ruling moral code. By 1912, Japanese had succeeded in building up its military strength. It signed an alliance of Britain in 1902 and defeated the Russians of Manchuria 2 years later, as well as its economy. By the end of the World War I, the country was recognized as one of the Big Five powers alongside Britain, the US, France, and Italy at the Versailles Peace Conference. The liberal, cosmopolitan 1920s gave way to a revival of Japanese military tradition in the 1930s, leading directly to imperial aggression and Japan's entrance into World War II. During that conflict, Japanese soldiers brought antique samurai swords into battle and made suicidal banzai, which means a Japanese cheer or war cry, attacks according to the Bushido principle of death before dishonor or defeat. At war's end, Japan again drew on its strong sense of honor, discipline, and devotion to a common cause, not the daimyos or the shoguns of the past, but the emperor and the country, in order to rebuild itself and re-emerge as one of the world's greatest economic and industrial powers in the latter 20th century. Now, let us dig a little deeper about the Kamakura history. In 1185, the Minamoto family took over the control over Japan after defeating the Taira clan in the Genpei War. Minamoto Yoritomo established a new military government which is called the Kamakura Bakufu in Kamakura and was appointed shogun in the 1192. And after Yoritomo's death in the year 1199, quarrels for supremacy started between the Kamakura Bakufu and the imperial court in Kyoto. Those quarrels for supremacy found an end in the Jokyo disturbance in the year 1221, when Kamakura defeated the imperial army in Kyoto, and the Hojo regions in Kamakura achieved complete control over Japan. By redistributing the land gained during the Jokyo disturbance, they were able to achieve loyalty among all the powerful people throughout the country. The emperor and the remaining governmental offices in Kyoto lost practically all effective powers. Chinese influence continued to be relatively strong in the Kamakura period. New Buddhist sects were introduced. The Zen sect, which was introduced in 1191, found large numbers of followers among the samurai, which were now the leading social class. Another Buddhist sect, the radical and intolerant Lotus Sutra sect, was founded in 1253 by Nichiren. In 1232, a legal code, the Joi Shikimoku, was promulgated. It stressed Confucian values such as the importance of loyalty to a master and generally attempted to suppress a decline of morals and discipline. Tight control was maintained by the Hojo clan, and any signs of rebellions were destroyed immediately. The shogun stayed in the Kamakura without much power, while deputies of him were located in Kyoto and western Japan. Stewards and constables controlled the provinces tightly and loyally. Indeed, the Hojo regions were able to bring several decades of peace and economic expansion to the country until an external power began to threaten Japan. By 1259, the Mongols had conquered China and became also interested in Japan. Several threatening messages of the powerful Mongols were ignored by the Kamakura. This resulted in the first Mongol invasion attempt in 1274 in the island of Kyushu. After only a few hours of fighting, however, the large naval invasion fleet was forced to pull back because of bad weather conditions. This was very fortunate for the Japanese since their odds against the large and modern Mongol force were not favorable at all. Due to good preparations, the Japanese were able to maintain strong defense for several weeks during a second invasion attempt, which occurred in 1281. But again, the Mongols were finally forced to withdraw, mainly because of bad weather again. Kyushu remained alert for a possible third invasion attempt, but the Mongols soon had too many problems on the mainland in order to care about Japan. The consequences of the many years of war preparations against the Mongols were fatal to the Kamakura government, since they resulted only in expenditures and no profits. Many of the loyal men who were fighting for the Kamakura were now waiting for rewards that the government could not pay. Financial problems and decreasing loyalty among the powerful lords were some of the reasons for the fall of the Kamakura government. By 1333, the power of the Hojo regions had declined to such a degree that the Emperor Go-Daigo was able to restore imperial power and overthrow the Kamakura Bakufu. The Kamakura period saw lasting developments in government, agriculture, and religion, and managed to withstand the Mongol invasions of the late 13th century CE. The period came to an end with the fall of the Kamakura shogunate in 1333 CE, when a new clan took over as shoguns of Japan called the Ashikaga. I hope you have learned something from this video and maybe add Kamakura to your bucket list when you travel in the future. See you next time!